to address the situation with ICE and to take action to protect the people of Massachusetts. I'm joined today by the Lieutenant Governor, Senate President Spilka, and leaders in the legislature, including Senator Driscoll, Representatives Hong, Badger, Sangiolo, Senators Cream, Edwards, Payano, Representative Mendez, Senators Brownsberger, Comerford, Sear, Oliveira, Representative Cabral, Senator Kennedy, Senator Friedman, Senator DiDomenico, Senator Eldridge, Representative Haggerty, and I'm sure there are others who are here and joined in this effort. I also am joined today by members of our cabinet and leaders from across our administration in public safety, education, healthcare, workforce, and immigrant services. Also joining today are district attorneys, District Attorney Tucker, District Attorney Hayden, District Attorney Ryan, and District Attorney Sullivan, and members of law enforcement. We also have Bishop Barbosa from the Archdiocese of Boston, as well as other leaders in various faith communities. We also have leaders in healthcare, in our schools, in labor and business, in communities across our state. And what you see here is what makes Massachusetts a special place. People from different walks of life, different experiences, different backgrounds, different regions of the state, different perspectives, all coming together in support of one purpose, which is to protect the people of Massachusetts. To say what is happening right now with ICE in Massachusetts and across this country is wrong, and that it doesn't make us safer, and that it needs to stop. Let's be clear about what's happening. Over the past year, President Trump has sent federal agents into communities, cities, and states around the country. And what we have seen week after week, month after month, are federal agents instigating, antagonizing, and yes, causing violence in communities. People have been killed, others have been shot. We've seen mothers and fathers ripped out of cars and from the arms of their children. United States citizens have been stopped, arrested, and detained. Their homes broken into without a warrant. Citizens have been threatened with being put on a domestic terrorist watch list simply for holding a cell phone and filming. ICE agents we've seen assault peaceful protesters. And at the end of the day, what we've seen through Donald Trump and his agents are continued trampling of constitutional rights and protections that are respected here in Massachusetts and across this country. Now, all of these actions by ICE stand in stark contrast to our own outstanding state and local police. And I want to be clear about that. Because of ICE, it's actually the fact that our state and local police have been put in difficult positions. So I take this all together to try to give you some background as to why we're taking action today. As you know, I come to this as a former prosecutor and as Attorney General. I can tell you that this is making no one safer. We have people right now in Massachusetts who are afraid to send their children to school or to daycare, people afraid to go to church and worship, people afraid to go to the doctors for appointments or take their kids to the pediatrician's office, people afraid to go to court, to testify as victims and witnesses. This is all making us less safe. And as governor, I have a responsibility to protect the people of Massachusetts. Today, I'm filing legislation to keep ICE out of our schools, daycares, other child care centers, churches, hospitals, health clinics, and our courthouses. These These are all places where people go and expect to be safe. Our action today is actually in line with what was long-established federal policy. It used to be that federal agents and partners in law enforcement recognized those sensitive spaces, and they in fact used to designate them as sensitive locations that were protected from enforcement action. Now, the Trump administration threw out that common sense policy at the start, on the very first day of taking office, in fact, and made the way for what has been extreme and downright un-American tactics. Their goal has been to intimidate and to instill fear, and that's what they've done. And we're here today to restore trust in government. You know, I look at our schools in Massachusetts. Enrollment has declined, most significantly in immigrant communities, with record drops of over 5% in Chelsea and Everett. School leaders will tell you in no uncertain terms that this is directly tied to Donald Trump and ICE. We need families to trust our schools and to be able to send their kids to schools and to daycare. Churches, under the Trump administration, churches and places of worship are now seeing parishioners afraid to come and worship and pray. At a time, by the way, where a lot of people are understandably and rightly turning to God for comfort and support. The Trump administration is actually standing in the way of religious freedom in this country, and we're going to stop that here. We're going to stop that in our houses of worship, and we're going to stop that in our schools, because families need to trust that schools are safe for their kids. Hospitals and healthcare clinics have not been immune to these tactics. Providers across Massachusetts, I'm talking about hospitals, healthcare centers, doctors' offices, are seeing people skip medical appointments, skip needed care, pregnant women not going to the doctors, not taking their kids for pediatrician visits, not going to the doctors when they're actually really in need of emergent care. Why? Because they're afraid of ICE. We have people who are afraid to visit their parents in a nursing home because of ICE. That's just wrong. And we're going to stop that here in Massachusetts. It's absolutely unacceptable. We're going to protect and keep safe our healthcare spaces. Now, finally, courthouses. Judges are telling us that ICE's presence is keeping away victims and witnesses. Here's what that means. It means that people who are charged with crimes are not having those cases prosecuted. It means that people who are charged with crimes are not being prosecuted and held accountable. That's counter to public safety. And I'm not going to let that happen anymore here in Massachusetts. I think about the impact on victims of serious crimes who've had their cases dropped because they're afraid to go to court, or a witness is afraid to go to court. And then violent criminals left to roam free as a result, domestic abusers, people who commit rape and assault. When that happens, guys, it makes everyone less safe. And so our legislation will ban warrantless civil arrest by ICE in our courthouses. Our legislation will also make it unlawful for another state to send their National Guard into Massachusetts without the permission of this governor. You know, you've seen this. Donald Trump sending guard troops into Chicago and Los Angeles against the wishes of state and local officials. These deployments of the Guard, they drain resources. They take members of the Guard away from their important duties, both their day jobs and their need to be ready for actual emergencies and disasters and needs in their state. This hasn't made anyone safer. It's a dangerous development, and we're going to do everything to stop this from happening here. Our bill will also allow parents to prearrange guardianship for their kids in case they're detained or deported. And I am really sorry to even have to utter those words. But at the end of the day, we've seen here in Massachusetts and around this country, littlest kids taken away from their parents, left alone or in the care of maybe a neighbor, maybe the state. It's wrong. So in the interest of protecting people in Massachusetts, we're going to make it easy for parents to take the step of guardianship in the event, the tragic event, it's necessary for their family. In addition to filing legislation, I'm also doing things that will take effect immediately. I'm signing an executive order today to protect our state and state resources from ICE. That includes prohibiting ICE from making civil arrests in non-public spaces of state buildings. We're not allowing ICE into these spaces. Prohibiting the use of state property for staging immigration enforcement activities. And lastly, prohibiting state agencies from entering into any new 287G agreements unless there is a clear and imminent public safety need. The bottom line is that Massachusetts is safer when residents can trust their government when they go to report crimes or get services. And we are trying to restore that trust today. What we're doing today in Massachusetts is standing up to an agency and an administration that are out of control. But we're doing more than standing up to and against something. We're also standing up for something, right? You know, basic concepts of freedom and rights and protections enshrined in state and federal constitutions for a long, long time. We're standing up for our immigrant communities who are a part of the fabric of our communities and contribute so much to our culture, to our economy, to who we are. We're standing up for public safety and for education and health care and the ability of people to freely practice their faith. We're standing up for the liberties that we hold dear and for the protections we deserve in the places where we go and need to feel safe. That's the legacy of freedom here in Massachusetts, and it's one that we need to continue to stand for here and across this country. My job as governor is to keep the people of Massachusetts safe. I take these actions because I need to, because the last weeks and months of the onslaught of the Trump administration's tactics when it comes to ICE is both something we've never seen before. It's also something that's done grave harm to the safety and to the well-being of Massachusetts residents. Donald Trump needs to remove ICE operations from communities, okay? I want to be clear. I want to be clear, okay? I think I have my bona fides as somebody who went after some pretty bad guys, okay? ICE is supposed to be doing its job, protecting our borders, right? They have a job, which I support that mission. But that's not what they're engaged in right now. So I say Donald Trump needs to bring everybody home, bring them out of these communities, right, until they fix that agency. And they stop the lawlessness, the chaos that we're seeing, and people being shot on our streets. You know, I woke up this morning, I saw a post, 90 miles up the road in Portland, Maine, an ICE agent taunting a woman who was simply there filming with a cell phone, telling her he was taking her picture, took a picture of her license plate, took a picture of her, and she was going to go on the domestic terror watch list for exercising First Amendment rights. Are you kidding me? So this is where we are, sadly, right now in this country. I don't take these actions lightly. I take them out of necessity, okay? Both in respect and to honor my obligations as governor to protect people, and also because I swore an oath too. And we've got to protect and defend the rule of law and the rules of engagement that have been the norm for the last 250 years of this great nation. And finally, I'll say this. It's not just about changing people out, though I've called for Kristi Noem to go. She had no business being there in the first place. Greg Bavino to go. Okay? That's not going to fix this. Donald Trump needs to take action himself to change what ICE is about and what they are doing. And if Donald Trump, in this moment, when so many people are feeling a trauma and an antagonism and a fear and an anxiety, and no, this isn't right. If he doesn't act, then Congress needs to act and step in now and fix this. And in the meantime, we're going to do all we can to protect the people of Massachusetts. Thank you, and I'd now like to invite Senate President Spilka to the podium.
Wow. Congratulations, Governor. Good afternoon. I'd like to begin by thanking Governor Healey and the Healey-Driscoll administration for bringing us together today. Look around you. Look at all of your wonderful faces and your desire to see this happen and your excitement, unfortunately, the need to have this happen. But what we have witnessed on the streets of Minnesota, of Maine, and so many other parts of our country in recent weeks has been enraging. Masked individuals are ripping apart families with no warrant, no due process, shooting and killing a mother and an ICU nurse with the Department of Veterans Services. American citizens murdered in broad daylight on American streets. One victim was simply driving. The other was exercising his constitutional right to protest his government. These actions, as the governor acknowledged, are not any legitimate public safety, as Trump states. They were acts of intimidation carried out by individuals who have been empowered to enter communities with the sole purpose of inflaming fear and sowing division. In April, I said on the Senate floor that these actions, unfortunately, echoed those my grandfather experienced in Poland more than a century ago, and experienced by others throughout Europe that led up to World War II, and unfortunately have been experienced by others from other countries during our history. Since April, the Senate has acted. We funded immigrant legal defense, banned the impersonation of federal offices, passed a comprehensive data privacy bill to protect our residents from surveillance, and taken additional steps to help our communities. We in the Senate working with our partners in the House and the administration, have spent endless hours speaking with constituents, advocates, and experts to identify and prioritize proposals that will truly protect people here in Massachusetts. And we have been closely collaborating with the administration, our Attorney General, and our colleagues in the House. I want to applaud Chair Friedman and our colleagues in the Steering and Policy Committee who are leading the Senate's Response 2025 initiative, along with Senators Comerford, Cream, Brownsberger, and Payano. Our Judiciary Chair, Senator Edwards, Public Safety Chair Cronin, Assistant Majority Leader DiDomenico, as well as the tireless efforts of Senators Gomez, Payano, Miranda, and Edwards. Earlier this week, we listened to the words of Magna Bader, a Holocaust survivor. The parallels between what her family experienced and what is happening to some of our families right now are chilling. And that word doesn't even capture it. Massachusetts must continue to act. Massachusetts will continue to act. Governor, I know we've had many conversations about this, and I welcome your partnership, your administration's partnership, and I want to go on record that the Massachusetts Senate stands firmly with you in these efforts. We are beside you. I can promise all of you when this legislation reaches the Senate, and hopefully that is very soon, we will engage thoughtfully with the details and consider additional protections developed through the hard work of our senators, measures that we feel are necessary to defend the safety, dignity, and rights of our residents. Let me be clear. The Senate will also do everything in its power to return these proposals to your desk for your signature soon. Massachusetts is the birthplace of American democracy. Right now, that democracy feels fragile. We will not let it die on our watch. Working together, we will continue to meet this moment, and we will protect our residents, defend our values, and continue to lead. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce Essex County District Attorney Paul Tucker.
Thank you, President Spilka. And thank you, Governor Healey and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. Thank you for your partnership and always keeping public safety across the Commonwealth as one of your top priorities. We're grateful. I'm here with some of my colleagues today, D.A. Hayden, D.A. Sullivan, D.A. Ryan, to give you an on-the-ground perspective as to what's happening with these ICE operations in our courts across the Commonwealth. These operations diminish access to justice, which diminishes public safety. Defendants have a right to due process. Witnesses have a right to offer testimony, and victims have a right to their day in court and be heard. The governor mentioned victims of domestic violence. I will add victims of sexual assault. We have seen so many of these people who are simply looking for their day in court that are afraid to come. We see members of our staffs every day trying to talk to these folks to rebuild some of the trust that has been broken. We work very hard, as do municipal and state police officers across the Commonwealth, to build trust, and some of these operations have broken that trust. I fear it may be irreparable. We have work to do. Courthouses are to be places of fairness and justice. With these ICE operations, it has done nothing but instill a climate of fear. Public safety is enhanced by a strong, independent judiciary and a place, a venue, where people can go safely and be heard. The governor's actions today will help to relieve that fear and enhance public safety. I found a quote from a very influential federal court judge, Judge Rakoff from the Southern District of New York, a federal district court judge. His words, much better than mine, will say exactly what the issue is that we're facing every day. Access to justice cannot coexist with a threat of civil arrest looming over those who enter a courthouse to assert their rights, to defend themselves, or to fulfill their civic obligations. Think about every one of these words. Governor, your actions today will help enhance public safety, and we'll all be better for it. Thank you.
I am Cristiano Barbosa, Auxiliary Bishop and assisting the Archbishop Richard Henning here in the Archdiocese of Boston. It is a privilege to be here with you, Governor Healey, and all who are here gathered, as today she's addressing issues directly pertinent to the common good of our society in this time. As a bishop, I focus here on the legal reestablishment of protection for sensitive locations, insulating them from civil arrest. These sensitive places, including educational, healthcare, and religious institutions, provide safe spaces in our country today. Safe spaces guarantee to all those present in our land their right to receive education, health, and religious assistance in safety and stability. Governor Healey's proposal speaks directly to a pressing civic need. Our society today is on edge in multiple ways, more so than we are accustomed to in this richly diverse land. In November 2025, the U.S. Catholic bishops issued a special message to our people in which we said, "We are disturbed when we see among our people a climate of fear and anxiety around questions of profiling and immigrant enforcement. This generalized sense of fear and anxiety is one way to describe being on edge in our country today. As an immigrant myself and as a bishop ministering here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I can affirm that many among the good people we serve are experiencing and living in constant fear and distress. Legal protection for safe spaces in schools, hospitals, and houses of worship are needed as one means of providing locations and institutions to renew the spiritual and physical lives of all of us and all our neighbors. All human beings with their God-given dignity deserve to feel safe and protected. The governor has identified an unmet need. It once was protected by federal law, but now requires that states step into a gap seriously absent among us. We are a nation under God. That's how we say. And in our traditions, God is the one who teaches us to care for the poor, the vulnerable, to welcome the stranger, to care for them, to promote them, to integrate them. Thank you, Governor, and all who are here today. Thanks to all of you who are here to protect all our safe spaces and our people. And now I would like to introduce you Almi Abeta, Superintendent of Chelsea Schools.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Healey. and her administration for allowing me to share today. On the morning of January 22nd, almost a year ago, 2025, just 2 days after President Trump's inauguration, rumors began circulating in Chelsea about a local action by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. Federal agents took one person into custody in Chelsea. Fears about possible deportation rapidly spread through Chelsea's largely immigrant community. Many frightened parents decided not to send their children to school. That day, out of the 6,130 students in Chelsea, 1,031 were absent, 16.7%. The next day, the number dropped to 827 absent, 13%. Almost a year later, fears of ICE action continue in Chelsea and have spread through other Massachusetts cities and towns. Education has always been the great equalizer for our country. Our children deserve the opportunity to learn, regardless of their citizenship. That is a fundamental right, and it is under threat. In these uncertain times, we must hold tight to the core value of education. My father's family immigrated to the United States from Mexico in 1955. He often shares the story of coming to this country at the age of 12, learning English in school, and eventually graduating from high school. Due to financial constraints, his father was a migrant farm worker and later in life a custodian at a school in Laredo, Texas. My father couldn't afford college, but he joined the Air Force, where he served this country for 22 years. He earned a college degree. I was raised to believe that education is the key to success, and I hold that belief deeply, especially for my students in Chelsea. This is what drives my work. It's personal. I see my own story reflected in the lives of the district students and their families. Every parent dreams of a better future for their child. That's why so many of them came to this country. And every child has the right to attend school. State and federal laws guarantee that all students have the right to attend public school and receive equitable educational services. Thank you. In response to continued ICE rumors in Chelsea, my communications director and I continue to send letters to families reaffirming our commitment to welcoming and educating all students in Chelsea, because that's what we do with Chelsea. Our goal is to ease families' concerns and ensure that they understand how we will safeguard their children while they are at school, because attendance matters. Children have to be present to learn, and we are changing the lives of our children every single day. We want families to have trust in our schools. When they trust us, they send their children to school where they can access vital services. For many of our students, school is not just a place for learning. It's also a place where their basic needs are met, especially as many families struggle with food insecurity. With education, children have the chance to achieve their dreams. It is the key that can transform a student's life, and we've seen it firsthand every day in Chelsea. And by changing one life, we have an impact on an entire generations to come. The pandemic taught us just how crucial it is for children to be physically present in school. Let us not forget this fundamental right, and let us protect it fiercely. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Now I'd like to introduce Maura Healey, CEO of Brockton Neighborhood Health Center.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much to Governor Healey, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, Secretary Mahania, Undersecretaries Rosenthal, legislators, leaders, and all of you wonderful supporters in the room, for this opportunity to share the perspective of a community health center and a healthcare leader. My name is Maura Healey. I'm a psychologist and the CEO of Brockton Neighborhood Health Center. We're a community health center serving nearly 40,000 patients from Brockton and surrounding communities. We offer over 200,000 annual visits across many medical services: primary care, OBGYN, behavioral health, addictions treatment, dental, infectious diseases, nutrition, eye services, and the list goes on. We offer this through a patient-centered model of care. But we are way more than a healthcare provider. We are a trusted pillar of the community we serve. At Brockton Neighborhood, like many other community health centers, we work hard to create and promote trust, which we've spoken about, as well as access and engagement with all the comprehensive primary care services we offer. We do this because it's not only the right and caring thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do. The more we make healthcare in the Commonwealth welcoming, safe, and easily accessible for patients to engage with, the more they can take care of themselves, their families, and their communities. Let me be clear. Any interruptions, including interruptions due to fear of immigration enforcement actions to healthcare access and engagement, is a problem, not just for one patient, not just for their caring family, not just for the hardworking providers who care for them, but for everyone, all of us. When patients avoid primary care out of fear, it creates problems. Delays in care can turn manageable health concerns into serious, sometimes life-threatening conditions. We know patients who don't get their screenings because of fear early are diagnosed with cancer, maybe at stage 4, when they could have been caught at stage 1 and been treated. This leads to higher costs and unnecessary suffering and loss. When people can't access timely treatment for infectious diseases, those diseases spread. When people cannot access timely treatment for their chronic illnesses like hypertension and diabetes, these illnesses progress, recovery becomes harder, health disparities widen, costs rise, and everyone in communities suffer, from the patients to families to schools and even businesses. If people's access to primary preventative care is interrupted for any reason, they end up showing up also at emergency departments for needs that would have been better served in our offices at community health centers and clinics and local hospitals. And then the people who are there for needed emergency care at the emergency rooms have more difficulty accessing it, and the total cost of care becomes so much more expensive. At community health centers, we see every day how prompt, accessible care protects not just individual patients, but the overall health and stability of our communities. We see it in our patients. Many of the patients in our communities at health centers are immigrants. They're hard-working individuals. They are mothers working multiple jobs, children eager to learn, grandparents trying to take care of their grandchildren. They are families and workers who are fueling our local economies. At many community health centers like Brockton Neighborhood, we also proudly hire from the communities we serve, making many of our healthcare staff brilliant, dedicated immigrants who represent the best of this Commonwealth. The best of this nation, and the best of the world. I am a proud immigrant, and I feel privileged to be here and to work alongside anyone else, a lot of whom are behind me and around me, who believes in the dignity of all people, in making the world a better place in the areas where we can impact it. That is the way I was taught by my hardworking immigrant family. And that is what I try to bring to my everyday at Brockton Neighborhood Health Center and in any space I occupy. In addition to supporting patient health and well-being, we want to keep trying to support our healthcare staff, our doctors, our nurses, social workers, all of us. They bear a lot of burden already. I think we know that. I think everyone here probably knows a healthcare worker and knows how hard that work already is. They work so hard to care for our communities. I know, I see it every day. Let's not add extra fear and stress to them either. I think we can all agree that we want to keep moving towards reducing their stress, not exacerbating it. I think it's clear that safe, timely care in healthcare facilities isn't a convenience. It isn't just a right. It's a critical component of our community health across the Commonwealth. Healthy people can be active participants in their families, communities, and our local economies. Stressed providers can focus on care instead of fear. And all legislation that supports, protects, and promotes this critical healthcare access and engagement and the amazing workforce that provides it is a policy worth celebrating. On behalf of patients, providers, community health centers, other healthcare entities, and the whole Commonwealth, I would like to say thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to share this humble perspective. And now I would like to welcome Gladys Vega, President and CEO of La Colaborativa, to the podium.
So, good afternoon. I stand here with lots of emotion. Gobernadora, gracias, gracias, gracias. It was about time that we hear good news, right, in the state of Massachusetts. So, gracias. I'm going to read my statement because I'm a mess emotionally because I am so happy. 2025 was the worst year in my 30 years in La Colaborativa. But today is a celebratory day, so if you hear me cry, it's my happy tears, okay? It is with deep pride and gratitude that I stand here today alongside nuestra gobernadora, un orgullo para nosotros. Last year was a very painful year for our community and the Commonwealth families, our neighbors, our friends. La gente trabajadora had their lives disrupted by the president of ICE in our communities. Workers on their way to work, families going to church, their car windows smashed. All these stories are incredible in the city of Chelsea. The fact that when you mentioned that ICE agents are not going to be able to stage, in Chelsea, they staged right across the Williams School in the DOR building. I mean, on the Department of Revenue building, that's where they gather for their operations. So that means that I'm not going to see them there again. That is incredible. Gracias. Gracias. The pain that these families are going through will not soon disappear. The trauma that these family separations have gone will never be, they will constantly be with them. We still carry that pain in our heart, in our soul. I want to make sure that you understand how grateful we are to all the nonprofit directors, to the workers that show up every single day, that are running the streets, the courthouse monitors that are chasing ICE and documenting. Thank you for standing for us. For those non-Latino residents of the Commonwealth that have said, estoy presente, I want to help, I want to be a good neighbor. I don't know that individual, but I'm here to help, and I stand by you. We're extremely grateful for your actions. Those actions matter. Gracias, gracias, gracias. To the judges on our state and our state attorneys, our police officers who have witnessed force use far beyond anything they were ever trained to do or accept, and they still choose dignity. They choose humanity over what they see with the federal government. We are very proud that our state officers and our local police officers are not involved like they are in other states. And that's what the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is all about. I have to be very clear that not everyone is a criminal, and everyone in our community works very hard to make it. That is why these protections that are announced today by Governor Healey mean so much to me, to my community, and to the people that I serve every day. People come to us with a simple question. Gladys, ¿cuándo volveremos a vivir sin miedo? Gladys, when can we begin to live without fear? Fear for sending their children to school, fear for going to doctors, fear for simply living or loving their families and raising their children in a state that they call mi hogar, mi casa, in a state that they call home. These protections help us navigate the realities of living in Massachusetts. But more than that, it gives us hope. ¿Tú te imaginas the year that we have had, and now we're taking this action? This is huge for the state of Massachusetts. Mil gracias, gracias, gracias. This hope, esta esperanza de Massachusetts, que aquí en Massachusetts this is a demonstration that in Massachusetts we have leadership that knows what is right. Leadership that understands our communities deserve dignity, safety, and respect. Leadership that says clearly without an apology, ya basta, enough is enough. Thank you for standing with our community when it matters the most. Gracias por caminar con nosotros. And now it is my honor to invite back our dear Governor Healey to finalize this.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers, because I think it's important to know we're not, this is real. This is real stuff. It's happening in Massachusetts. I'm sure it's happening in other states, and that's why it was important to take the action that we took today. With that, we're happy to answer any questions on topic. Let's go one at a time. Matt, yep. Chris. Look, I'd ask for a warrant, look, what's happened here is ICE is acting in ways that ICE has never acted before. And in acting in ways that at times have been violent, that have been antagonistic, certainly unlawful and unconstitutional. So, look, my hope today, Chris, is that in signing this executive order, we make clear here in the state, we have sensitive areas. We expect the federal government, Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, and ICE agents to respect our sensitive areas. Now, if the response back is we got to go get the bad guys, well, I've said from the beginning, we're all for that. We all join in wanting to support efforts to remove from our communities those who engage in violence and do harm. And also go back and look, media, right? You can count up the number of folks who've been detained, been arrested, right? Some totally mistakenly, U.S. citizens, people with legal papers, people pulled over just based on the color of their skin now. That's a rule that ICE acts. Our federal government, you can pull somebody over based on the color of their skin. And 2-year-olds getting detained, right? So, I take these actions because we need to take these actions. It does not prevent ICE from engaging in proper public safety mission and law enforcement, okay? And there are ways to do that. In fact, men and women here in the state do that every day, okay? So, this is where we are. My hope is that they respect that. And again, my real hope right now is that Donald Trump call a timeout, get everybody back out of communities, right? Fix this agency that is so desperately broken. Yep. Yeah.
What mechanisms will the state be putting in place if ICE officers do decide to just bust into a church, do decide to just bust into a hospital, or do state property to the state? What mechanisms
Yeah, I'll tell you, we'll do everything we can to make sure that it's upheld and that people are protected. I mean, again, I say don't bring the fight. Don't bring the fight, okay? When you hear from a school superintendent that says, I have kids who are not going to school, and I misreported what you said, I called it 5%. We're talking about 15% of a school population not going to school. Or when you hear people aren't going to health care, how is that making us as Americans stronger, safer, and the like? So I really do hope that with today's announcement that the White House hears me and that those in charge hear me and that we are going to take this very seriously. And as a state, there are certain things that we have under our control, including who's going to use our state property, who's going to use our state resources. So, I'm going to take charge of what I can take charge of and what I have jurisdiction and authority over. But I really, really hope, sincerely, that the message is heard. This is not working. This isn't working. It's not making anybody safer, and it needs to stop.
Governor, how can you possibly
Yep.
not call Massachusetts
Yeah.
a sanctuary state?
I'll come back to that question. Yeah.
If you're gonna get rid of them, why not get rid of the existing ones? But with plenty
Yeah. Well, that's a county issue, okay? It's not a state issue. We do have a state 287G agreement. It's with our Department of Corrections. I actually support that agreement, okay? And I'll tell you why. When you're incarcerated under the care, the custody of the Department of Correction, that means you've done something pretty bad, okay? This is prison, and I think it is appropriate to have an agreement that says, look, if you're here undocumented, you commit a crime, you're prosecuted, and you're sentenced to prison in the Department of Correction, at the end of that sentence, okay, I think it is appropriate for our Department of Correction to notify ICE, who, by the way, knows that somebody is there already, but to notify them and to give ICE the opportunity to take into custody and deport that individual. So what I'm doing today, though, is saying, given what's going on in the country with this agency that is so problematic, no state agency, again, what can I do under my control? No state agency or entity in the Commonwealth is going to enter into a 287G agreement. Now, I've said, look, if there is an instance of imminent threat to public safety, then my Secretary of Public Safety will certify that's appropriate, and that may happen. But for the time being, this is the state of play. Yep.
Governor, how can you possibly not call Massachusetts a sanctuary state with these updated policies?
How can you call Massachusetts a sanctuary state with, no, I'm asking you the question. How can you call Massachusetts a sanctuary state based on these policies?
Rules preventing ICE from arresting immigrants
Excuse me?
arresting their targets at courthouses.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't at all. And this is part of the misinformation that's out there and what people love to spread. So you asked a question. I'll answer it, and I have good law enforcement here with some serious bona fides. Dear Ryan, how long have you been a prosecutor? 20 years. Yep, okay. Hayden, how long have you been prosecuting? 28. 28? And Tucker?
34 years.
Okay, so that's a lot of years of law enforcement. Everyone will tell you there is a way to do this. It's called the judicial warrant. And everybody, myself included, along with these folks, stand in strong support of law enforcement, real law enforcement, in strong support of local and state police and law enforcement, and stand in strong support of the public safety of our communities. The problem is that ICE right now, we're not a sanctuary state. I already outlined the cooperation, the work that a Department of Corrections does with ICE, okay? And you gotta understand, ICE is responsible for enforcement of immigration law, civil enforcement of immigration law. That is not something that local and state entities, actors, including law enforcement, are responsible for. So, it's I got to tell you, it's really heartbreaking to see the state of affairs and to know that it's come to this and that I, as governor, have to take this action to protect the safety and the well-being of our folks. It's just a shame. And every day, and I can tell you, going back in my career as Attorney General, I used to work, and our teams did, with FBI, HSI, ICE, CBP. You go through all the federal agencies, right? We used to work with them to investigate and prosecute crimes and to put people away. And I can tell you, today, that hasn't changed. State and local law enforcement continue to work with federal agencies in investigating and prosecuting crime in this state. That hasn't changed. So nothing about today's announcement changes the operation of law enforcement in this state and the good work that they've been doing to go after criminals and to keep people safe. We're not changing that at all. What needs to change, though, is the president needs to fix ICE. He needs to fix this broken agency, and if he doesn't, Congress has got to step in. Okay. Yeah. I'd ask for a little grace here on the T. We had a lot of snow. I know I was shoveling quite a bit. We had a lot of snow. It was on the tracks, right? It takes time to clear that. The teams worked really hard and as quickly as they could, and I know we're interested in getting people back using those services as quickly as they could. And I think you should check back with GMA about the actual statistics. I'm about when things were delayed and the like, but I never want to see delays, but we had a pretty big storm. In fact, it was the biggest storm, I think, that we've seen in 4 years. Yeah, so, but that's not to say we aren't working every day to improve the T, to improve the commuter rail, and to invest in public transportation in this state. Okay. Thanks, everybody.